Let us go ahead on. Let's go ahead on and try to get us a little word clearing in today, inshallah. And we pray. Attention, pray. And we pray. In the name of Allah, the beneficent, the merciful. All praises are due to Allah, the Lord of the world, the beneficent, the merciful Master of this day of judgment in which we now live. Thee alone do we serve, thee alone do we beseech for help. O Allah, guide us on the right path, the path you have bestowed favors, not of those whom your wrath has brought down, nor those who go astray. Subhanallah, alhamdulillah, Allahu Akbar. Ameen. All right, brothers and sisters. I wanted to, we were finishing up. We basically had finished up, but that was one thing that I wanted to let you take a look at before we move on to this next word, which is auditing. Auditing is on page 21 of the technical dictionary, even though we are coming out of the document that I sent you. And if you don't have the document that I sent you called Scientology Words to Clear, just let us know. We did send it out, so there's a great possibility that you might already have it. Okay, but anyway, we're going to, in the Scientology, the Dianetics Dictionary, page 238, we were talking about Scientology. And basically, the basic thing we were trying to project and to reiterate with everyone and make everyone solid in their understanding is that Scientology basically is knowing how to know, or it's the science of knowledge. Or really, you could really say, you could just about I would say in 90 to 95% of the cases, you could almost use Scientology and Islam interchangeably. Okay, and so we were. So I think that's the main thing, and the recordings up to this point, I think will be very useful if you care to indulge in understanding these things, because see, these are very fundamental terms, and then the way that we have approached the terms and the clearing of the words and the understanding of the words and the concepts they're very fundamental, and in my opinion, they enable a much more in-depth penetration and perception of the concepts in which they embody. Okay. And we were talking the other day, and I couldn't find it. Well, I didn't find it the other day when we were talking about the symbol of Scientology. And it's actually on page 238 of the, it's on page 238 of the technical dictionary. Okay. And I showed you a picture on the cover of the course of the book by Mr. Hubbard called Creation of Human Ability, which that even in itself is such a very valuable concept when we start talking about ability, because oftentimes we confuse with what Mr. Hubbard calls doing this with ability. Sometimes we say you can tell somebody to do something as though it's just simply telling them to do that, but they don't have the ability to do that. Just like you can say somebody that's been through a real rough time, say with their spouse or with a business partner, they've gotten the short end of the stick or whatever, and then somebody come up to them, they say, well, just get over it. And so Mr. Hubbard points out that these things are more, it's more of in order to carry that request or command out, it involves more of an ability than just a doing this. You just can't tell somebody to do something that they don't have the ability to do. The ability has to come first. And so that symbol is on the cover of Creation of Human Ability. And this is what we were trying to do in STW. We are trying to create or recreate the human ability, because a lot of our ability as a people have been stripped from us with the knowledge of self. When the knowledge of self was taken from us, knowledge of your language, your name, your folkways, mores, history, religion, it took a lot of our ability to be ourselves. And as the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said, that we are the lost sheep, that we were lost from the very power of our being, which is the original man, the Asiatic black man, maker, owner, queen of the planet Earth, God of the universe. So the Scientology symbol, it says the S in the double triangle. See, the S stands for skio, which means knowing in the fullest sense. And then we were alluding to that earlier today when we talked about, just not just looking at it, something on the surface, when the essence of that particular thing remains unhidden. You can't see the real meaning sometimes. Sometimes when you just look at something on the surface, it really does not do justice to what this particular thing really is. And that's why it says, judge not by appearance, but judge a righteous judgment, that we must look into things. And Jesus says that, take my yoke upon me, learn of me. He's saying, learn about the inner workings, learn what makes these things tick, what makes me tick. And if you study that about Jesus, then you will invariably be in a position to bring yourself or to come closer to the one that made him who he is. So knowing in the fullest sense, that's what we're trying to do, brothers and sisters. That's what STW is about, helping you to know in the fullest sense that's possible. The fullest sense that that's available to us. Some of us have studied more things than others, and we have more data resources than others have. And so the S stands for skio. Some people say scio, but I'm just going with the pronunciation that I heard in the lecture series that that Mr. Hubbard brought forth. So you got the S And then you have the double triangle. One triangle is on the top, one is on the bottom. The lower triangle, he said, is the ARC triangle. Its points being affinity, reality, communication, which combined give understanding. All right? So the upper triangle is the KRC triangle. The points are K for knowledge, R for responsibility, and C for control. Now, Belinda and Jacqueline, if you would, find that session where we went into the KRC triangle and how we were relating those triangles to each other. If you would, I think that would be helpful going forward. But anyway, I just thought that it was very interesting, and inshallah we'll be off of this in a minute, that the ARC was the lower part and that the KRC was the higher part. And then it says the KRC, think about it, the KRC triangle is higher, which to me signifies that it may be a little bit more important gradiently even than the ARC. Even though they cover not the exact same ground, but maybe different aspects. For in the KRC triangle, you have knowledge for the K, R for responsibility, and C for control. And so what happens is that this, I guess, this is what is most essential in the resurrection of the dead, is that we have knowledge, and that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us. He says that it is the lack of knowledge of self that is holding the Black man back. And when we look at this KRC triangle, and we have knowledge, responsibility, and control, and these are things that we really like. You know, ARC is just got more to do just really with your nature, you know, things that you are going to do, whether you try it or not. And it seems like KRC are things that are related to, I guess, related more to your ability to really have ARC. And like you said, knowledge, we don't have, as a people, we don't have control of our neighborhoods. We don't have control over our household. And unfortunately, we don't even, in many cases, even have control over ourselves, over our individual selves. So the knowledge of self, as brother Wahid, Sister Ania's husband, had reminded us so faithfully, you know, the first few years of STW, he reminded us of what it says in the lessons about it. It says the lost found nation of Islam must be, what cannot return to its own without a thorough knowledge of self. And this is what Scientology helps to bring to the table. It gives us a more thorough knowledge, because the skill means knowing in the sense in the fullest sense of the word. And it also signifies Scientology is a study of knowledge. So that means that, see, you are breaking this thing down on a whole nother level where a lot of people, we assume that we know. And the minister have pointed out to us, he said that one of the problems with Black folks is that we don't know. And we don't know that we don't know. And furthermore, we don't want anybody to tell us anything.
Mm.
And so Mr. Hubbard says, he says that the biggest barrier to learning or to knowing is to not realize what you don't know. And what happens that in the nuclear, with the astrophysicist, Mr. Tyson, the Grail deGrasse Tyson, got one of them weird names. But anyway, you know, you've seen him on TV. He said that the problem in his thing of the course I took under him, he was saying that the problem, one of the biggest problems that we have in studying and getting to know something is that we sometimes know just enough about a thing to think that we know, but not enough to realize that we don't know. See? So these are, I remember the minister talking one time about the tricks of knowledge, but these are some of the pitfalls of knowledge, because you can confuse yourself, and sometimes you know a certain amount, and then you want to you begin to speculate, and it goes back to this thing too. Sometimes you know a certain amount, and then you want to be acknowledged. Remember that we talked about this morning? You want to be acknowledged for what you know. And so if you cannot get the acknowledgement for what you know, so you're seeking some balance there. If you can't get that knowledge, then you start adding a little something to what you think you know. And then you begin to do as the Bible, as the scripture says, it says, can a man add a cubit to his height? So oftentimes we add a cubit to our heights because we're trying to get acknowledgement. And this is what the big arguments in the barbershop is about, because everybody want to think that they know, and then they begin to add on, artificially add on what they think they know. And so everybody think that they know. I got one brother that swear he know. He swear he know what the lottery number is gonna be. Year after year, talking about he know. He sending me a text telling me what the number gonna be. And hell, if I had played all them dang numbers, I would damn near be back by now, you know. And so this is a tricky thing. This is a tricky thing about knowledge, see, because we make decisions about based on knowledge, and we make decisions. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan teaches us that when you make a decision, see, you got ego. Now you bring the ego. He said the ego is usually attached to the decision that you make. The decision is a judgment, and you have to understand what a judgment is. A judgment, a lot of times, or speculation, means that you know a certain amount, but then there's a certain amount that you don't know. See, and then sometimes when you let the ego comes in, then the ego fills in the blank, the ego fills in the mystery. But if you have made the wrong decision, then the ego has taken you down a road that is detrimental to the accuracy of whatever your judgment may be. And so Scientology is knowing how to know. It is the study of knowledge. So when you understand and when you embrace the principles of Scientology, then your knowledge is more firm. Don't mean that it's perfect, but it's closer to being perfect. You know, in the lessons, it says that answers by Minister Elijah Muhammad are very near correct, very near perfect. And that can mean a whole lot of different things. That one thing it could mean is that, well, the universe, the creation of Allah, is ever expanding, and what is true right now may not necessarily be as true in 5 minutes as it was right now, because everything is evolving. But you have certain immutable and eternal principles that never change. And these are depicted in our pillars of our faith, which is Islam. There is no God but Allah. See, you know, or Allah is the greatest. See, that ain't gonna change. You see, things of that particular nature. So I won't go any further with Scientology on that, but I urge you, study what Scientology is, and it will be of use. It will be of more use to you. And it's certainly going to be included in my critical thinking series that, inshallah, will take place after Ramadan. And I'm thinking that the postulate seminar will actually be a part of this series, where we start, you know, thinking. You're trying to, what do you think? I mean, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? When you ask somebody, what do you think? You really ask, what do you know? How sure are you? How certain are you? How perfect is your perception of this particular thing? And see, once we begin to really zero in and focus on these types of things and get a usable, a workable understanding of these things, then these things becomes, you know, they're like tools, and it actually can be like weapons, you know, not weapons to hurt anybody, but the devil, we want to hurt the devil. We want to cripple him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We want to cut off, we want to use these tools to cut off the ties, you know, that the devil have put on us, you see. All right. So that's Scientology. So now we're going to use the rest of this time to, let me find this page, to go to page, we won't start with this on page 21, but you may, if you've got the dictionary up in front of you, you may want to go to page 21 where it has the definition for auditing. Okay, so now auditing, as I was saying before we finished the last session earlier, auditing, in my opinion, is one of the greatest or the biggest misunderstood words that we have in the nation of Islam. And it's funny how this Scientology does one second here. How did this happen? Oh, okay, I got it. Yeah. Especially when you begin to, well, see, and that's what it is. We use in Scientology. That's why we started with Scientology. So when you understand what Scientology is, and you can see how Scientology is like a milking machine, where you use Scientology, you can get a word or concept and you can milk it. Like you milk a cow, you can get blood out of the turnip. You get the maximum amount of benefit from a particular thing. So when I say that the biggest misunderstood word, one of the biggest misunderstood words in the nation in regards to Dianetics in Scientology is auditing. So before we do that, I want us to look at the misunderstood word. Can somebody find that? I can't find that under the. Can anybody find that? Is there a misunderstood word in the technical dictionary? Well, I can just give you the STW version, and then we'll come back. We'll come back to that at some other point. What is a misunderstood word? It is a word. Well, first of all, misunderstood. In words. So let's go with the basic. What is a word? A word, as Mr. Hubbard says, is a packet of thought. A word is an audible, which means you can hear it, representation of a packet, or you could also, I believe, say package of thought. So you have a thought relating to a perception of something that can be perceived that is packaged up into this sound or into this utterance. That's the word. And then it says, in the beginning was the word was God, the word was with God, the word was with God, the word was God, the word became flesh. All right, so you got a word. So that's what a word is. A word represents, when I say a word, then this word, it directs your mind and directs your attention to a thought, or in many cases, a packet or a package of thought, you see. All right. And so it is a means of communication. Oftentimes, if I want you to understand or to duplicate what is in my mind, then I will say a word. Now, just kind of be patient with me on this approach, which is our approach with STW. It is designed or intended to be similar to the approach of Mr. Hubbard, as Mr. Hubbard was a nuclear scientist, which means that his observation And that's all a scientist is someone that observes the effects and that observes phenomenon. All right, so we want to break these things down as much as possible. And you, as you continue this study, you will become more comfortable with the level that we try to break these things down. I break them down as far as I can. And I welcome you if you can break it down even further. That will be good. But now we have to, if we're breaking it down further, it needs to be something that's found. How we break it down needs to be something that's found in the nomenclature of Scientology, Dianetics, and or the supreme wisdom given to us. And when I say supreme wisdom, I'm talking about all of the messengers' teachings. I ain't just talking about the 6 forms. I'm talking about all of it. Our Savior has arrived, all of these particular things. All right. So when we talk about words, and misunderstood words. Well, what is understand? So to understand or to get an appreciation of what misunderstanding is, then maybe you can look at what understanding is. Now, Mr. Hubbard, he says that understanding has 3 components. That is affinity, reality, and communication. ARC. All right. He said when you have ARC, then you have understanding. So when you understand a word, the thing came up in my mind. I hope this is a good example. Just say basketball. Affinity, reality, communication. If you look at the term basketball, or maybe that might not be the best example. It may be. In other words, we'll just use it. We'll use basketball. If you understand what a basketball is, you have the better you understand the basketball better with ARC. So that means if you have a basketball, if you've ever bounced a basketball, then that you have affinity. That means if you've had one, that you've been close to it. You can see it. You can see the different lines on the basketball. You can see the different orange peel-like texture on the surface of the basketball. You can feel the pressure, the air pressure from the inside and so forth and so on like that. All right. And then you have communication with it. That means that if you grab it and you try to palm it, if your hands are that big, or you hold it with 2 hands and stuff like that, and then you toss it up toward the basketball goal, you are communicating with it. It's a terminal, you are a terminal, and then you make a calculation how much you have to how much force you need to throw it into the basketball. And then reality, it might be a little bit harder to explain what the reality would be. I guess you could say reality reality is generally talking about agreement, but on another level is that if I look at the basketball, if I look at the object and I say it's a basketball, and then you look at the same object and you say it's a basketball, well, then it's a basketball. So, you know, if using those elements, you can see these, you get a better, more full concept of what a basketball is. When you think about it, you look, so now you've looked at it from 3 different perspectives there. And so that gives you, you have a fairly good understanding of what it is. And then so a misunderstanding, which means that all of these are all a part of one of these elements you don't understand, you know, so you understand that this basketball, you know, is used in a game and so forth and so on like that. So if you try to use it for something else, then you fall into a misunderstanding. Is that make, am I being at least remotely clear here?
Me, but that's just me.
Well, you stop me if I need to go a little bit more. I'm trying to do it, and this was a random. See, this was a very random example that I gave, which I think actually I can understand. I'm hoping that you can, and please stop me if you can, if I need to stop it. And so anyway, so so you got a misunderstood word. Basketballs are used for playing a game, and then if you use it for something else, then you may not understand what the basketball is. The reality of the basketball is that it's, you know, we play a game with it, you know, and so if you misunderstand it, then you may see the basketball, you may want to use it for something else. You may want to use it to cover a pothole in the street or something like that. So by using it for that which it was not intended, which means you don't understand it, then if you misuse it, then you don't get the proper use of which it was intended to be used. Sister Jacqueline, go ahead. You're muted, sis.
Thank you, sir. And you may have said this, but I was looking for that information you asked us for. But in one of the Scientology dictionaries that they recommend, misunderstanding is a failure to understand correctly.
Right. There you have it.
Yes, sir.
I just went all the way around the mountain. And so you summed up, I believe you summed up what I was just saying, which I think both things are good that help us to understand. And so I'm just saying, we're just trying to break it way down. And so you may experience some disconnection for a minute, but it'll come back, because it's really weird. This whole thing of perception is just, and depth perception is such an interesting but critical component of our thinking. And so misunderstood word means that when I say something and you don't understand what I'm saying, then, and then what was it that you just said, Sister Jacqueline?
I believe I said not understanding something clearly.
Failure to
Okay,
understand
well, yeah,
correctly.
yeah, right. Not understanding something clearly. So so we can start right there with auditing. And so we start with this word auditing. So when we say auditing, and then some people say, well, people in the nation, you think about the nation, when people say, well, I want to be audited. Well, then what I normally do when I ask, when I'm taking in someone to be audited, and Belinda and I were talking about this, about the first question that we ask. You remember what we said, Belinda?
Ask them what auditing means to them.
Right. What auditing means to them, but a very good question to determine that. Sometimes, you can get more out of a person is by asking them, what do you expect out of audit? What do you expect out of these sessions? And when they tell you what they expect, then usually inherent in what they expect is their concept of what auditing is. See? So some people, and many of our people, the way that auditing was introduced to us and unfortunately not followed up, because you go to the Church of Scientology and then you learn how to audit, but unfortunately you really don't learn what auditing is. And so if you don't really know what auditing is, so many of the wonderful benefits that come from auditing, they just fly past you. You don't really, you miss the boat, so to speak. Because some people, you say, well then, what do you expect from auditing? Some people, a lot of people can't really tell you, because it's almost like people expect, they say, well, I need to be audited. And it's almost, what I get from a lot of people is that they come to get audited, and it's almost like they come to you as Clark Kent, and then your session is like the phone booth. So Clark Kent comes to your session, and they come in the phone booth, and then they expect to come out like Superman. See? And to a degree, that is a certain amount of truth in that, albeit a very little amount of truth in it, in terms of you being able to just recognize the benefits of auditing. And so, to make a long story short, we have a lot of misconceptions of what auditing is. Number one, auditing, I think, should be explained as auditing is a therapy. And I'm just giving you all of this stuff. I hadn't read this definition in a while, but I'm just giving you what I'm operating off of. The auditing is a therapy. What is a therapy? A therapy is a technique to restore or rehabilitate someone or something to a prior level of functionality. See, therapy is a process of healing. It's a process of, in this case, of reconnecting the person with reality, which makes it in Islam a religious thing, because if it's reconnecting you to reality, in Islam, we know that the only reality is Allah, then it has certain ecumenical properties or values that come to the table or come to mind. Are we all right? Is everybody tracking with me? Somebody.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Somebody, please.
On my camera. Yes, sir. Every time I go get on mute, somebody put me back on. So trying to stay quiet.
All right. It's all right. It's all right.
Yes, sir.
I just told y'all this morning about how needy I be sometimes, you know. You need some kind of acknowledgement, and I need acknowledge, well, just, you know, for a lot of personal reasons, but then I need acknowledgement so that I can go ahead, because I don't want to, you know, I don't want to keep going on something, and if we are not, if we haven't gotten to the point where we understand where we at, you know. I don't want to go into a new area unless I know that we're comfortable where we're at. So
one thing, let me say one thing. We can be unmuted if we can keep our backgrounds quiet. There's no problem with that. But we mute you when it gets noisy and distracting.
And then sometimes you just don't have no, because the way these devices are, sometimes we don't have control over what of the volume of the background noise. We don't know. I have a piano student whose mother is a guitar student of mine, and sometimes when I'm teaching the piano student, I can hear the guitar, his mother, in the background practicing on the guitar. And, you know, and it's just like that. So, you know, just bear with us. Let's bear with this technology for right now. Inshallah, one day we'll be sitting on a big 1,000-foot long yacht in the Caribbean, clearing words.
Postulate that, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
I heard that. I heard that.
That's right. That sounds like you heard it twice. Yes, ma'am. Right. That's right. Why not us? Why not us? We've been promised. And then we even are beginning to understand some of the elements that are present in our mind, some of the factors in our mind that keep us from seeing ourselves in these positions. So we want to, we want to attack all of these things. So to the extent that we are attacking them, any means necessary, we are in an auditing session. So if we look, because we're coming up on the end of the this session, but I just wanted to give everybody a good overview. Now, one of the things that we said, it's a therapy. All right. And Mr. Hubbard lists auditing in his book, Science of Survival, as one of the 4 valid therapies. Auditing, he says, well, the first one he lists is education. Okay, so education is one therapy. Change of environment is a therapy. Auditing is a therapy. And he also says the control or the manipulation of MEST. MEST being an acronym that stands for matter, energy, space, and time, otherwise known as the physical universe. So if you have a hobby like gardening, or you know what I mean, or if you play the flute, or you like to sew, anything that you are able to exert yourself and move and have some control over your environment, over physical things, all of these things are therapeutic. Okay. And so, so many of us in the nation, we have a lot of different ideas of what auditing is, but we've never really been taught what auditing is. We've only been taught how to audit. And for some reason, they didn't teach us that when we went to get our auditing certificate. Now, if any of you are auditors and they taught you what auditing was, they don't really, I mean, that was a different experience than what I got. You read all of these books, you do all of these doggone drills, and you really do find out how to audit. But then again, the auditing that we are familiar with is a very narrow band or a very narrow perspective of auditing, because there are many different ways that you can be audited. But if you don't know what auditing is, and you've only been exposed to one type of auditing, then you can easily slip into the misunderstanding is that what you have seen is the only aspect or the only access of auditing that you have. Now, so when you look at that word, it's very, very interesting. Let's look at it here. Okay, I hope you have the words to clear. Scientology words to clear. And actually, you think about it, and I just kind of got a little slight cognition as we said this right then, is that they give you, when you go from Dianetics auditing to Scientology auditing, they give you these words to clear. And this is part of the objective of what we're trying to achieve here, is to get you familiar with the terminology so that when it is used, you will just have a better understanding in general. And if you will remember, when we were first introduced into auditing that we had this, we looked at a series of films called How to Use Dianetics. You all remember that? And so it goes into a lot of the mechanics of auditing, and it really, you learn more about what auditing is from that film than you learn from the auditing course. Looks like to me when I think about it. So anyway, auditing is what they said, processing. Okay, so that means when you're going through a process, you're going through a transitioning or transitory or transformation sequence, if you will. You're going from a point to where you were in one state to another state, where that's what processing is. You know, if you got sugar, you got raw sugar. In order to get white sugar from raw sugar, it has to go through a process. So in auditing, in order to get an engram or a facsimile or a memory or an incident, to get that incident from the point of where it is affecting you adversely to taming this, it has to go through a process. And so you run it through this process, and the end result is that particular thing that might have been bearing on you negatively, now it bears on you much less negatively. And I'm just giving it to you as really as detailed. I may never do this again. I may never go through this like this again. But I just, you know, for your benefit and for my benefit, if we break this stuff all the way down, we're just going to be so much more prepared as auditors, and also to be audited, because now you understand what's going on, and then you can help the auditor. You understand the principles that are in effect, and so you are in a position where you can actually help the auditor, and you have a better understanding of what he is trying to do. Okay? Process, the application of Scientology or Dianetic processes and procedures to someone by a trained auditor. Okay, so good. It's an application of these techniques. A technique is just a way to do something. We call it technology because it refers to a way to process. It's almost like the Methodist Church talks about or it alludes to a method. In the case of the Methodist Church, what is the method of the Methodist Church? It's the method of Jesus, where Jesus's method was to teach. The exact definition of auditing is, okay, and once again, and this is why I don't just give you this and just turn you loose on your own, because many of these definitions have been extracted to a degree out of context or they assume that you understand certain things. The exact definition of auditing is the action of asking a pre-clear a question which he can understand and answer, getting an answer to that question and acknowledging him for that answer. So there's your acknowledging again, okay? So asking, this is what auditing is. The auditor asks the question to the person being audited. And I think you get somewhat of an insight into this, even with, if you look at it from the standpoint of the IRS, nobody wants to be audited by the IRS. But what does the IRS do when they audit you? They take inventory of you. And then they ask you a question. And they say, well, why did this happen? I mean, why did you claim this for this? Or why did you claim that for that? So what they do is they put all of the facts out on the table and put them on the table in a way that they can be analyzed and looked upon and understood. And this is what we are aiming for in auditing, is that we are taking inventory of past incidents in such a light that they will be understood. And the more understanding that you get of these particular incidents, then the less negative effect will come about as a result of these incidents. Sometimes the incidents have so much pain that it is difficult to look at the incident or to confront the incident directly, thereby preventing you from looking at it. The pain is so great, you don't want to look at it. You don't even want to, I don't want to experience that. And this is part of why you need an auditor, because the auditor, you can use the strength. See, you look at it and it breaks you down. It makes you weak. But you, along with the auditor, you all can team up on this incident. And the auditor, a skillful auditor, a knowledgeable auditor, can help to direct your attention in such a way that it makes it easier to confront these incidents. And when you confront these incidents, it lessens the negative charge and lessens the resistance of you looking at this thing as it is, because the more you can look at it as it is and confront this particular thing, it diminishes the negative effect that this thing has on your mind. We're going to leave it right there because we're 5 minutes over, and that's my cardinal sin for this thing here, because I don't want to I don't want to bottle you up, but this is very important. So I'm running a little bit late. Y'all bear with me. I just want to kind of wrap this aspect. And I'm telling you, we're just really scraping the surface of auditing, helping you to take inventory of yourself and discover certain aspects of your past that linger just below the threshold of your consciousness. And these things are so close to your consciousness that even if you see the slightest little thing that reminds you of this particular thing, then the negative aspect of these incidents become added into your calculation, added into your perception of reality. And it alters your ability to see things as they are. I want to leave you with that. And of course, if you want to get the Sister Belinda she's putting these word clearing sessions up on our YouTube channel. Are there any questions thus far? We got a ways to go with auditing. No question. We're going to go ahead on and close this session now. I pray that it's been made a little clearer to you, and I apologize to Allah if I said anything that's wrong or misleading. But this is so important, because we are the builders of the kingdom of heaven. And these sessions, they're not going to be perfect. I mean, they're not going to be without fallacy. But inshallah, if we embrace the science, and as the ministers say, the truth. See, because the truth, once you understand the truth, you're able to correct. If I said something wrong, then you are able to correct it within yourself and correct me. I invite you to correct me. But correct me from Mr. Hubbard stuff and correct me from the supreme wisdom. Because these are the resources that the minister directed us to. There's a lot of people say a whole lot of things, especially about mental health and all that kind of stuff. But a lot of them can't even give you a definition of what health is. And more than that, can't give you a definition of what exactly mental is. So we, brothers and sisters, we just so blessed to have been led to a body of knowledge that helps us to check ourselves. But of course, we have to be humble ourselves. And we have to be ethical. Ethics are the highest level of morals. One of the reasons why we ask Allah in the prayer, guide me to the best of morals. For none can guide to the best of morals but thee. Because Allah exemplifies best of morals, which is ethics. Ethics being the rules that you put on yourself, which is what the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan talked about a couple of days ago in Swan Song. Ethics, your ethics is what you do when nobody else is looking, because you are under your own rules. When the door is shut, you are under your rule now. You're not under no quote unquote moral code. You're under your code. The true degree of your evolution. May Allah bless you with the light of understanding. You all have my number, Sister Belinda's number. Our number is pretty much the same, except mine is 08 and hers is 09. Anything that we can do to help to facilitate. But what I'm really, one of the objectives that I'm trying to achieve is to push you a little bit so that you will use your God power. Don't rely on me. The stuff I talk, it sounds good to me. I want what you saying to yourself and what you understand to sound good to you. For you to have it and make it your own. And I didn't get to the point where I could articulate things like this overnight. It's taken many years, and I'm still a baby. Consider myself a baby. But that ain't bad, because when you consider the fact that if all the trees were peeled and all the seeds were inked with 7 seeds added, we will never exhaust the wisdom of Allah. Thank you, brothers and sisters, for your participation.
Thank you, dear brother.
Praise be to Allah. And inshallah, we will continue this discussion on auditing in a couple of days. And see, when you think about this, see, this is a therapy in itself, because it is education. That's one of the 4 valid therapies. And once you get educated to what auditing does, then the principles of auditing become alive in your everyday life, in every moment of your life. There's a place for an auditing session with an auditor, but then you can actually turn your whole life into an auditing session. Prayer could be an auditing session. What do you think it means when it says pray without ceasing? You're basically saying audit yourself. Take inventory. Everything that you do, take inventory. You're actually doing it anyway. But when you get the knowledge and when you begin to organize your thoughts and organize your mind to develop the automaticity. Did I say that right, Belinda? Automaticity. The automatic functions. And see, what has happened is that over the years, over trillions of years, we have developed some automatic functions that are contra survival. This is where some of this high blood pressure comes from. But auditing will show up these things. Auditing helps us, and processing helps us even within ourselves, because we don't have self-auditing, but we do have self-processing. So may Allah bless each and every one of you with the light of understanding. We will close this session out now, and inshallah, on Thursday morning, we have the STW straight wire session, and then shortly after, we will clear these words. May Allah bless you with the light of understanding, and we will close out in prayer. Oh, okay. Before we go, Sister Carol, go ahead, dear sister.
I just want to say, if you saw the 202 area code, I invited a guest on. If she's still on, I guess she could make a comment or something. The 202 area code.
I didn't really notice it myself.
Okay.
But thank you. Thank you for inviting others.
Yes, sir. You're welcome.
When we invite, we trying to build the kingdom of heaven, sister. And obviously you've been laying those bricks. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. All right, brothers and sisters, that's the end of this session. Hope you enjoyed it like I did. And we will close with prayer now. Attention, prayer. And we pray. In the name of Allah, the beneficent, the merciful. All praises are due to Allah, the Lord of the worlds, the beneficent, the merciful, master of this day of judgment in which we now live. To thee alone, O Master Father Muhammad, do we serve, and to thee alone do we beseech for help. Oh Allah, guide us on the right path, the path of those you have bestowed your favors upon, and not of those whom your wrath has been brought down, nor those who go astray. Amen. All right, brothers and sisters, go in peace. I look forward to seeing you on Thursday. And I don't know what Brother Lukman has got for us for tomorrow, but be on the lookout for his emails or whatever, and he'll let you know. I'm sure you can reach out to him as well. Allah bless you. We'll see you then. Walaikum.
Walaikum salam.
Walaikum salam, sir.